Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to the Toronto Taxpayers Coalition's 3rd anniversary party. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I hope you guys are having a great time and starting conversations with members of the community in our great city of Toronto. We're blessed to live in this great city. For those who don't know me, my name is Andrea Micieli. I recently joined the Toronto Taxpayer Coalition as an outreach coordinator. I'm very excited to get to work over the next year so that we can advocate for you. Before we get started this evening, I just want to take the opportunity to recognize some special guests who have supported our organization throughout the years and continue to give us support. So, to begin with, MPP Monty McNaughton, MPP Rob Leone, Councillor Gary Crawford, Councillor Cesar Palacio, Mayoral candidate David Soknacki, PC Party candidate Nicholas Johnson, PC Party candidate Roberta Scott, and previous municipal candidates Mike Yen, Liz West, and Redmond Weisenberger. And of course, MPP Doug Holyday. I'd like to turn things over now to a familiar face, Nita Kang. Nita Kang has served as our managing director and now sits on our advisory board. She's also the PC candidate in Scarborough Southwest, and she has been instrumental in getting me started in this coalition. So I'd like to now introduce Nita Kang.
Sorry, slight adjustment here. Thanks, Andrea. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's really nice to see such a big crowd here this evening. I think it's a real testament to how quickly this organization is growing. And before I continue, I want to say a special shout out to my friends from Scarborough Southwest. Thank you for coming this evening. So when Matt asked me to present this award, I was delighted because I've been a member of the Doug Holyday fan club for quite some time now, as I'm sure many of you have. Doug left a career as an insurance broker to enter municipal politics in 1982. And he was elected as an alderman in the city of Etobicoke at that time. In 1994, Doug was elected as the mayor of Etobicoke. One of his great accomplishments at that time was privatizing garbage collection. During the 2009 Toronto garbage strike, Etobicoke was the only place that was not affected. And Doug has served as a city councillor in post-amalgamation Toronto for 16 years. Over the years, he was a champion for fiscal restraint at Toronto City Hall while conducting himself with integrity and professionalism. I think he deserves a round of applause for that. Doug was one of the few city councillors to consistently get top marks from the Toronto Taxpayers Coalition. And we're sad to see him go from Toronto City Council, but he remains a champion at Queen's Park. He's representing the people of Etobicoke Lakeshore, and I'm sure he's going to do a fantastic job for them. In his 30-plus years as a civic leader, he's earned the respect of his colleagues, and he's touched the lives of many people We're very pleased to present our first ever Lifetime Achievement Award to Doug Holyday. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to our guest of honor, Mr. Doug Holyday.
Actually, I would like to say a few words. I'm delighted to receive this award. The Toronto Taxpayers Coalition is a great organization, one that we sorely needed here a long time ago. Taxes, as an increase in taxes and increasing spending by the Toronto Council has gone on for so long that it's a shame a group like this wasn't in place to maybe try to put a stop to it earlier on. I won't keep you too long, but I want to give you a couple of examples of what has happened at Toronto City Council since I got there. Firstly, amalgamation, which I didn't oppose. I thought I was the mayor of Etobicoke and it was going to cost me my job, but I thought it made sense. A lot of big companies were amalgamating, and the reason for it was to become more efficient and reduce costs. And when you thought we had 6 fire departments and we had all the parks departments and clerks departments and everything that was duplicated, you think we should be able to reduce the number of employees and save some money. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way when we got to the big amalgamated council. Instead of reducing people, we were supposed to reduce by 3,000. I think we ended up increasing by 3,000 or 4,000. So naturally, there was a shortfall in the money, and of course, the mayor at the time, Mel Lastman, and others constantly blamed the provincial government for shortchanging them, when in fact they didn't make it work because they didn't get to the savings, and that was really unfortunate. And then along came David Miller, and spending really got out of control there. I think a couple $100 billion increase in the overall budget over that 7-year period, and that really spun things out of sight. And along with it, they put the land transfer tax in and the motor vehicle tax, and plus there was 3 to 4% tax increases every year. It was just pounding the poor taxpayer to death. And a group like this, I think, might have helped stop some of that if it was strong enough at the time. It took until Rob Ford came along really to change some of the things that were happening down there. One thing we won't get any credit for, and I say Rob's had a lot of personal problems, and I really, as far as I'm concerned, I guess he has 2 lives, and I've only been involved in one of them, but there's an age difference there.
Which one?
The thing, though, that was bang on was the agenda that we had and what we were doing. And one of the things that we did was we reduced the employees by the establishment by 1,500 people over the 3 years. Now, those were done by taking redundant positions that couldn't be filled again. So we bought some of them out, we early retired some of them, we transferred some of them, and some of them left. But 1,500 people were removed from the establishment at a great savings to taxpayers, but it's something that over time should have been done all along. But nobody had the political gumption to get up and fight this matter. Joe Micieli came by with a plan, and Rob Ford bought into the plan, and we all bought into the plan, and we made it work and reduced the thing by 1,500 people. That was a big savings to the cost of the taxpayers. The contracting out of the garbage, which we did in 1995 in Etobicoke, saved $1 million at the time. The contractor came in and did the job with 33 people. We'd been using 71. So there was plenty of room there for them to make a profit and us to make a savings. Now that savings, in today's dollars, is over $2 million. And then when we contracted out the garbage finally in 2012, again with the Rob Ford administration, the savings between Etobicoke and Yonge Street was close to $20 million. Now if we get over to the other side of Scarborough, there's another $20 million to be had there. That's $40 million today's dollars. But if you look back to 1995, how much money has this city wasted just in not collecting the garbage in the proper fashion that 90% of the rest of the province and the country were already doing. It's just an absurd waste. It's not an anti-union tradition, by the way, because in Etobicoke, when we got the first contractor for the first 7 years, there were Teamsters unions. We had to deal with them. But they were great. They worked hard. They lived by their contract. They picked up the garbage. There were fewer complaints, and we saved money. And that's still going on to this very day in the half of Toronto that's contracted out, and it will go on in the other half. In the meantime, we've got all this money to do the things that the city should be doing. You shouldn't be just throwing the money down the drain, which I think is what the Taxpayers Coalition is standing for. They don't want this anymore. And it's a good job they're here because we don't need it anymore. We can save money in other ways. There's a lot of other things that could be looked at, alternate service delivery, and we can save more money. We get to Queen's Park, the people down there have their own jargon. When they talk about adding new taxes or tax increases, they call those things revenue tools. When we talk about
a bunch of tools.
When we talk about reducing taxes or eliminating a tax, they call that burn and slash or slash and burn. You know, so they've got their own way of doing things, and it's really unfortunate this goes on, but that's what happens. It's too bad that we just couldn't elect people that would just get there to manage the city in the best possible way. And I think you people can play a part in making that happen in the future. I'm glad to see so many people out here tonight. I wish the organization all the best, and I thank you very much for giving this.
We have our president, Matthew McGuire, saying a few words. Matthew, come on up.
Wow, I almost called you Councillor Holyday out of force of habit. MPP Holyday, thank you so much for the kind words about our organization. We too are paying the bills of us not being there years and years and years ago. And we're trying to make up for lost time by being as effective as we can, being the best advocates we can be. And I think by the number of people here in this room tonight is testament to our hard work and to the number of people around Toronto who are buying into this. This is our 3rd birthday, and this has come a lot farther than any of us ever envisioned on day 1. So thank you all, everybody, and give yourselves a round of applause. Taxpayers, how are you tonight? It's been a wild few months with the media focus on Rob Ford's personal life, but City Council continues to make silly decisions, and we've been working harder than ever to keep them accountable. In the past few weeks, they've approved a takeover of the Bixby bike sharing program. And they've approved $500,000 to commission a report to study putting bike lanes just outside here on Bloor Street. Now, who else had traffic trouble tonight on Bloor Street? I can't be the only one. I could have told them for free that Bloor Street is not the appropriate place for bike lanes. And I'm an avid cyclist. I do easily 200 kilometers or more every month in the summer.
In the summer.
My summer ends in about October. It's too cold.
You don't have snow tires for your bike.
I do not. And we're not too clear on this yet, but I think City Council actually snuck in a secret hubcap tax when we weren't looking. So you laugh, but let me explain.
Revenue tool.
I parked at City Hall for 3 hours on Saturday night, and when I came back, I was missing half of my hubcaps. And I went online and I complained about this, and Hilke over there commented that I think City Council implemented a 50% hubcap tax. Well, they snuck this one by us if they did, and we're still looking into it. Now, all joking aside, we've had an amazing year for the Toronto Taxpayers Coalition. We've doubled our membership, and it's great to see so many new and familiar faces out here tonight. We've done a lot this year, and it's paid off. And We've even had more influence and more coverage on some of our initiatives than some people at City Council have had. Not bad for a volunteer-run organization. Looking back on the year it's been makes me proud of every single one of you in this room tonight. We gave City Council a plan to build 1 kilometer of subway and 1 subway station per year in perpetuity without raising taxes a dime. We pushed for changes to the lobbyist bylaw. We want all political advocacy groups to register as lobbyists when they push for changes. When radical elements of our society have to disclose their backroom meetings with councillors Gord Perks and Adam Vaughan and Shelley Carroll, taxpayers will know who these shadowy groups are who use councillors as vehicles to implement their agendas. We pointed out the number of Toronto councillors, employees on the Sunshine List. That's the number of city employees earning $100,000 or more from tax dollars, jumped by 30% in a single year. That is not sustainable, and there's no excuse for that. We asked why 18 councillors, a full 40% of our city council, took a taxpayer-funded junket to beautiful British Columbia in June of this year. We called for a new policy to limit the number of councillors attending the Federation of Canadian Municipalities conferences. It's time to stop the gravy plane. We hosted an all-candidates debate for the Etobicoke Lakeshore by-election. We had 250 voters in attendance, and CP24 broadcast the entire event on their website. In September, we railed against a decision to pay $75,000 for 30 chairs at City Hall that only city councillors would ever sit in. And I ask you, has anyone at City Hall ever heard of IKEA? We weighed in on privatization, on further contracting out garbage collection, on city expenditures, on Metrolinx, on the broken Presto card system, on the crumbling Gardner and other infrastructure, on rapid transit in Toronto, on bad planning that will cost us tens of millions of dollars extra to fix, and the 2014 budget. But there are two things that stand out in my mind. Back in April, we filed complaints with the Integrity Commissioner against 2 city councillors, Mike Layton and Adam Vaughan. Incidentally, we're in Adam Vaughan's ward tonight. We were heavily criticized for using the tools granted to us to file these complaints. Those councillors said we were on a witch hunt, and some in the media suggested we were vindictive.
They are witches.
Well, I'm happy to report that the Integrity Commissioner agreed with us and found both Mike Layton and Adam Vaughan guilty of breaching their code of conduct. We sent a clear message to City Council that we are watching them, and they no longer have free rein to behave as they want. They no longer have free rein with our tax dollars. And in July, we presented a petition to City Council that many of you here tonight signed on to. This petition called for the redrawing of ward boundaries in Toronto by copying the newly redrawn federal riding boundaries. Currently, our ward boundaries are really outdated. They're based on population data gleaned from the 1991 census. If you can imagine, we have eligible voters who weren't even born at the time that census was taken. As a result, we have some wards with twice the number of people as other wards, giving some people only half the electoral clout as some of their neighbors. And when they still refused to address the discrepancy, we filed appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board under the same provincial law. Now, of course, the reason they voted down our proposal at council is because it would also cut the number of councillors from 44 to 25. instead of increasing the number to 50. Many of the NDP councillors would have to run against each other. In fact, in this very ward, can you imagine Mike Layton and Adam Vaughan waging an election to represent this very ward? Because friends, under our plan, that is exactly what would happen.
Get rid of at least one of them.
What we've undertaken is nothing new. We are using a well-known provincial law to demand fair elections. Taxpayers in London, in Niagara Falls, and in Kingston have successfully used the same arguments we are using at the OMB, and they have prevailed. And friends, with your strong support, we're going to do the exact same thing here in Toronto. We're going to have fair elections, we're going to reduce the size of government, and we're going to reduce the cost of government. Now, our legal bills are adding up, and the cost of taking the city to the OMB is very high. But this is the cost and the price of democracy. When we push for positive changes, we're fighting against public sector unions who direct their members' union dues to wage political battles. We're fighting against organizations that receive government funding, your very tax dollars, to push for causes you don't believe in. And our only source of funding is people like you. You and people like you. At the Coalition, we're volunteer run. None of us draw a salary. We're all volunteers, and all of your donations go back into our advocacy campaigns, like the legal bills associated with taking the city to the OMB. We're in the middle of our biggest battle yet. This fight will be one that will dramatically change City Council forever. And friends, without you, none of this would be possible. Every year we host this free event to say thank you for your support over the past 3 years and ongoing as we wage this battle and many others to come. We want you to meet the team that run Toronto Taxpayers Coalition. And if you can chip in a handful of dollars or even your old pennies that you can't spend anymore, we'd be grateful for the support. It will bring us that much closer to victory. We're fighting the same fight, as I've mentioned, that taxpayers have won in London, in Niagara Falls, and just 3 weeks ago in Kingston, Ontario. Now, you can tell how excited I am about this. We have the winning arguments, but we have a hefty legal bill too. The lawyers are willing to work pro bono for the left-wing activists, but for some reason not for the taxpayers pushing for real and positive change at City Hall. I believe we will win at the OMB and succeed in redrawing Toronto's ward map and succeed in cutting City Council in half, but we need to have your support. So if you can, please contribute whatever you can, either on our website at torontotaxpayer.ca, by check, or even by cash donation. We'd be happy to take it up at the sign-in desk. Your support will help us ensure a victory at the Ontario Municipal Board. Your support will help us cut City Council in half once and for all. Everybody, thank you so much for coming out tonight. Enjoy the rest of the night. We're going to pull out the cake right now. We're going to ask all of our volunteers to come up. You've worked so hard over the past 12, 24, and 36 months. Please come up for a group photo, and we're going to then cut the cake and start passing it out to our members and supporters in the room. Thank you, everybody.